The first time my son asked me if it would be easier for everyone if he just disappeared, we were standing in the cereal aisle at Target. He was 8 years old, clutching a box of Cheerios like it was a life raft. His voice so quiet, I almost didn't hear him over the hum of the fluorescent lights. I laughed at first. Not because it was funny, but because mothers sometimes laugh when their brains refuse to accept what their ears just heard. "What?" I said, bending down to his level. "Buddy, what do you mean?" He shrugged. A small, practiced movement. The kind kids learn when they don't want to make adults uncomfortable. "Dad says I make everything harder," he said. "And Grandma says things would be calmer if I wasn't. Like this. Like this." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I stood there in the cereal aisle, surrounded by smiling cartoon mascots, and felt something inside me go perfectly still, because children don't invent sentences like that. They repeat them. And that was the moment long before the police, before the lawyers, before the truth exploded that I realized I had already waited too long. My son Noah has epilepsy. Not the kind people imagine from movies. Not dramatic seizures with flashing lights and chaos. His condition is quieter, sneakier. It lives in the space between moments. Absence seizures, partial seizures, neurological storms that can last seconds or minutes, stealing pieces of him and returning him confused, exhausted, and ashamed. Epilepsy doesn't ask for permission. It interrupts. And when you parent a child like Noah, your life becomes a system. Medication alarms on your phone, backup meds in every bag, emergency plans taped inside cabinets, notes for babysitters, instructions for teachers, color-coded schedules, doctor portals bookmarked like sacred texts. You don't forget things. You don't improvise. And you definitely don't get careless, which is why the morning I forgot his medication case still haunts me. That morning started like any other Tuesday, rushed, tight, balanced on the edge of too much. We were taking the commuter train into the city for Noah's annual neurological evaluation. Not urgent, but critical. The kind of appointment you wait nearly a year for. The kind that determines medication adjustments, school accommodations, insurance approvals. The kind you do not miss. Noah sat at the kitchen table, legs swinging, tracing circles in spilled milk. "Mom," he said, blinking slowly. "Do I have to take the blue pill again?" "Yes," I said gently, already reaching for the water. "Blue pill first, then the white one." He sighed like I'd asked him to do taxes. My husband, Daniel, walked in just then. Fresh haircut, coffee already in hand, calm in a way that used to feel grounding and lately felt like distance. "You sure this appointment can't be virtual?" he asked casually. "Seems like a lot of disruption." I didn't argue. "It's neurology," I said. "They need to see him in person." Daniel shrugged. "Okay, if you think it's necessary." He used to say that like a partner. Now it sounded like permission. I packed Noah's backpack. Snacks, headphones, fidget toy, emergency card. Then I grabbed what I thought was his medication case. I didn't check, because I never forget it. The train ride was uneventful. Noah watched cartoons, I answered work emails, I run a mid-sized event planning company, and apparently weddings don't care if your child's brain misfires. We got off at the downtown station, walked 3 blocks, sat in the clinic waiting room, and then habit kicking in, I reached into my bag to double-check. No medication case. My stomach dropped so fast it made me dizzy. I searched again, slowly, then faster, then desperately. Nothing. The realization hit hard and loud. Without his meds, the appointment was pointless. Worse, dangerous. Stress and fatigue are triggers. Skipping doses could mean seizures. I closed my eyes. "We have to go back," I said quietly. Noah's face fell. "Did I do something wrong?" "No," I said immediately. "This one's on me." We left the clinic and headed back toward the station. And that's when everything changed. When we got home, the apartment felt wrong, too quiet, too still. Daniel's shoes were by the door. He should have been at work. I unlocked the door slowly, not wanting to startle anyone, and that's when I heard voices. Daniel's. And his mother's. Margaret. She'd been staying with us, temporarily. A word she used the way other people use furniture, assuming permanence without discussion. I froze. Margaret's voice floated through the apartment, smooth and controlled. You just need to be patient a little longer. Daniel exhaled. I am being patient. No, she said. You're indulging. There's a difference. I felt Noah shift beside me. Then Daniel said the sentence that rewired my brain. I'm exhausted. I didn't sign up to raise a broken kid. Noah's hand went rigid in mine. I stopped breathing. Margaret didn't gasp. She didn't correct him. She said, calmly, We'll fix it. Just not all at once. Fix it. Daniel muttered. I just want my life back. Margaret replied. And you will. Soon. I didn't open the door. I didn't confront them. Because my child was standing right there. Because stress can trigger seizures. Because one wrong move could have cost him consciousness. I bent down and whispered, Eyes on me. We're leaving. We backed away from the door like it might explode. In the stairwell, Noah whispered, Did Dad mean that? I swallowed hard. He said something cruel, I said carefully. That doesn't make it true. Is it because of my brain? No, I said too fast, then slower. No, your brain just works differently. And different isn't bad. He nodded, but I could see the crack forming, and I didn't know yet how deep it would go. We didn't go back inside. That decision saved us. At the time, I didn't know why I felt such urgency, only that something inside me was screaming to move, to protect, to not explain things away anymore. I texted my friend Rachel one sentence. Can we come over? I need help. She opened the door 10 minutes later and took one look at Noah's face. Couch, she said. Blanket. Apple juice or crackers? Noah chose both. Rachel turned to me. What happened? I'll tell you, I said. Just watch him for a minute. When I stepped into her kitchen, my hands started shaking. I told her everything. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she said quietly, You need to assume Daniel is planning something. Has bear. The words landed like a warning bell. That night, while Noah slept on Rachel's couch, my phone buzzed. Daniel, where are you? You're overreacting. We need to talk. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my banking app and saw a notification I had never authorized. A pending transfer. A document request. My name on something I had never signed. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't about exhaustion. This was about erasure. And it had already begun. The first time I realized my husband was lying to me, it wasn't because of what he said. It was because of how calm he sounded while saying it. Daniel's voice on the phone was soft, almost concerned. You took Noah without telling me, he said. That's not okay. I was sitting on the floor of Rachel's guest room, Noah asleep a few feet away, his chest rising and falling in that uneven rhythm I knew too well. I didn't take him, I said evenly. I removed him from a dangerous situation. There was a pause. Dangerous? Daniel repeated, like he was tasting the word. That's dramatic. I pictured his face relaxed, controlled, already rehearsing the version of reality he planned to sell. You left the house, he continued. You forgot his medication. You're overwhelmed. There it was, the first brick in the narrative he was building. I didn't forget because I'm overwhelmed, I said. I forgot because I'm human. And that's exactly my point, he replied gently. You're stretched thin. Maybe too thin to be making big decisions right now. I hung up, not because I didn't have more to say, but because I suddenly understood something critical. Daniel wasn't reacting. He was framing. That night, after Noah fell asleep, I sat at Rachel's kitchen table with my laptop open and my heart pounding. I started small. Bank account. Everything looked normal at first glance. Balances where they should be. No obvious red flags. Then I clicked into document activity, and there it was. A new authorization request. A digital signature time-stamped 3 days earlier. My name. My hands went cold. I hadn't signed anything 3 days ago. 3 days ago, I'd been at home cleaning vomit out of the bathroom sink after Noah had a breakthrough seizure. I clicked deeper. The document was labeled vaguely, Financial Management Authorization. I opened it and felt the air leave my lungs. It was a limited power authorization granting Daniel temporary control over a portion of my business accounts for household stabilization purposes. My signature was there, perfectly replicated. My vision blurred. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a stressed husband acting impulsively. This was fraud. And worse, it was strategic. I didn't sleep that night. I watched Noah breathe. Counted seconds between movements. Listened for sounds I'd trained myself to fear. At 3:14 a.m., he stirred and whispered, "Mom, I'm here," I said immediately. "Are you mad at Dad?" I closed my eyes. "No," I said. "I'm focused." He frowned slightly. "That sounds worse." I smiled softly. "Sometimes it is. But sometimes it's how you fix things." He nodded, trusting me in the way only children can, completely and without protection. And that trust hardened something inside me. The next morning, I called my bank. The hold music felt insulting. When I finally reached a representative, I kept my voice calm. "I need to speak with someone in fraud," I said. Immediately, there was a pause, then a transfer. The fraud specialist, a woman named Elaine, listened without interrupting as I explained the document, the signature, the timing. When I finished, she said one sentence that confirmed everything I feared. "This isn't the first time we've seen something like this." My throat tightened. "There was a video verification attached," she continued. "Someone logged in as you. I didn't do that," I said. "I know," Elaine replied. "Because the IP address doesn't match your usual activity." I pressed my fingers into the table to ground myself. "What do I do?" I asked. "We freeze access," she said. "Immediately. And you file a police report." "Today?" "Yes." I hung up and stared at my phone. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I searched my own name online. What I found made my stomach turn. A newly created email address using my name. A cloud storage folder linked to that email. And inside it, documents. Scanned IDs. Utility bills. A copy of my driver's license. All things Daniel had access to. All things Margaret had helped organize to be helpful. I felt sick. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was preparation. Rachel came into the kitchen and took one look at my face. "Okay," she said. "What level of bad are we at?" "Felony," I replied. She exhaled. "Great. Love that for us." I gave a hollow laugh. "What do we do?" I asked. Rachel didn't hesitate. "You protect Noah," she said. "And you stop assuming they won't cross lines." That sentence echoed something she'd said the night before. Assume they are capable. By noon, I'd filed a police report. The detective assigned to my case, Detective Harris, listened carefully, asked precise questions, and never once suggested I was overreacting. "Do you have proof you didn't sign?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "And I have motive. Tell me." "They think my son is a liability," I said flatly. "And I think they're trying to remove me from control long enough to make decisions for us." He leaned back slightly. "That's serious," he said. "I know," I replied. He nodded. "Don't confront them. Let them think their plan is working." I swallowed. "You're asking me to lie." "I'm asking you to survive," he corrected. That afternoon, Daniel texted, "I miss Noah. We should talk like adults." "My mom's worried about you." I stared at the screen. Then I typed back, "I just need a little time." "I'm overwhelmed." 3 minutes later, he replied, "Of course. Take what you need." The ease with which he accepted the lie terrified me, because it meant he believed his own story. Over the next 2 days, I lived 2 lives. In one, I was cooperative, polite, slightly fragile. In the other, I locked everything down. Passwords changed. Account alerts activated. My business attorney looped in. School notified. I removed Daniel and Margaret from Noah's emergency contact list. The school counselor didn't ask why. She just said, "I'll update it now." That alone told me more than words ever could. On the 3rd night, Margaret called. Her voice was warm, familiar, dangerous. "Sweetheart," she said, "Daniel says you're struggling." I almost laughed. I'm tired, I said truthfully. Well, she replied, you've been under so much strain. Caring for Noah, running a business. It's a lot for one person. The implication hovered between us. I'm managing, I said. She hummed softly. Sometimes managing isn't enough. Sometimes families need to make hard choices. There it was, the edge beneath the softness. What kind of choices? I asked. A pause. The kind that give everyone a chance at a normal life. I ended the call with shaking hands. That night, Noah had a seizure. Not severe, but enough. Enough to remind me how fast everything could collapse. Afterward, he lay against me, exhausted and pale. I'm sorry, he whispered. For what? I asked, brushing his hair back. For making things hard. Something inside me snapped cleanly. You listen to me, I said, holding his face gently. Your brain is not a problem. The people who refuse to protect you are. He studied my face. You won't let them take me, right? I swallowed. No one is taking you anywhere, I said. I promise. And as I said it, my phone buzzed. A calendar invite, sent from Daniel's email. Subject line, family meeting. Scheduled for 5 days from now. Location, our apartment. I stared at the screen. 5 days. They had a timeline. So did I. The email invitation was polite. Too polite. Family meeting. Friday. 6 p.m. At home. No agenda. No explanation. Just a calendar block, like they were scheduling dinner instead of dismantling my life. I stared at it for a long time before I accepted. Not because I wanted to go, but because I needed to see how far they were willing to take this. The days leading up to Friday felt suspended in amber. Everything looked normal on the surface. I took Noah to school. I answered client calls. I smiled at strangers. And underneath all of it, my brain ran calculations. If they were moving this carefully, this calmly, then they believed they had leverage, which meant I hadn't found everything yet. On Wednesday, Detective Harris called. They've requested copies of Noah's medical records, he said. My stomach clenched. From where? The hospital network, he replied. Using your name. I closed my eyes. Did they get them? Not yet, he said. We flagged the request. But it tells us something. What? I asked. They're building a case, he said. Not legally. Narratively. That word stuck with me. Narratively. They're preparing to justify something, he continued. Usually that means custody, guardianship, or financial control tied to medical incapacity. I felt a chill run through me. They're going to say I can't handle him, I whispered. Yes, Harris said gently. And that they can. That night, Noah asked me something that broke my heart cleanly in two. Mom, he said, lying on his side, eyes heavy with sleep. If something happens to you, would Dad keep me? The question was casual. Too casual, like he'd been thinking about it for a while. I sat on the edge of his bed. Why would you ask that? I said. He shrugged. Grandma said it's good to be prepared. I inhaled slowly. What else did Grandma say? I asked. That Dad's stressed, he replied, and that sometimes kids like me need different help. Different help. I closed my eyes. Noah, I said carefully. Did Grandma say anything about you living somewhere else? He hesitated, then nodded. She said maybe Dad and I could have a quieter house, he said, where my brain wouldn't cause so many problems. I felt something cold and surgical settle in my chest. This wasn't just about money. This was about control, and they were already talking to my child. I called my attorney the next morning. Her name was Julia, and she didn't soften things. They're laying groundwork, she said, undermining your authority while presenting themselves as stable alternatives. Can they do that? I asked. They can try, she replied. But intent matters. And you have evidence. Not enough, I said. Not yet, she agreed, which is why you need to let them talk. I hated that sentence. Friday arrived too fast. I dropped Noah off at Rachel's house with his overnight bag. Sleepover, I told him lightly. He smiled, but his eyes searched my face. You're coming back, right? He asked. Yes, I said firmly. Always. He nodded and hugged me hard. I stood in Rachel's driveway for a full minute after the door closed, breathing through the weight in my chest. Then I drove home. Daniel and Margaret were already there when I arrived. They sat on the couch, side by side, like a united front. Daniel stood when he saw me. "Hey," he said gently. "Thanks for coming." I almost laughed. Margaret smiled. "We just want to talk, dear." I sat in the armchair across from them. "Go ahead," I said. Daniel glanced at his mother, then back at me. "This isn't an attack," he began. "We're just concerned." Margaret nodded. "Deeply. About what?" I asked. Daniel folded his hands. "About Noah. And about you." There it was. "The last few years have been hard," he continued. "The seizures, the appointments, the unpredictability." I stayed silent. "And you've taken on so much," Margaret added. "Too much, frankly." I looked at her. "You mean parenting?" She smiled thinly. "I mean coping." Daniel leaned forward. "You forgot his medication this week," he said softly. That scared me. I met his eyes. I corrected it. "But what if you hadn't?" he pressed. "What if something happened?" My jaw tightened. "What are you saying?" I asked. Margaret answered. "We're suggesting a temporary restructuring," she said calmly. "Of what?" I asked. "Our roles," Daniel said. "Just until things stabilize." "Define stabilize," I said. Margaret clasped her hands. "Until Noah's condition is better managed. And until you're less overwhelmed," Daniel added. The room felt too small. "What exactly are you proposing?" I asked. Daniel took a breath. "That Noah spend more time with us," he said. "At least for a while." My heart pounded. "You mean live here?" I said. Margaret nodded. "With proper routines, less chaos, less stress." I laughed once. It was sharp, uncontrolled. "You think I'm the chaos?" I asked. Daniel didn't answer. That was answer enough. "You've been busy with work," Margaret continued. "Your business, your travel." "My work pays for his care," I said. "Yes," she replied. "But money isn't everything." I leaned forward. "You talk to my son," I said quietly. "Without me." Margaret's smile didn't falter. "We reassured him," she said. "He deserves honesty." "You told him he might leave me," I said. Daniel stiffened. "Mom, she told him his brain was a problem," I said. Margaret tilted her head. "We never used those words." "You used worse," I replied. Silence stretched. Then Daniel spoke, voice controlled. "We're prepared to pursue legal options," he said. "If you won't consider this voluntarily." I stared at him. "You'd take my child," I said. "We'd protect him." Margaret corrected. The lie sat between us, polished and confident. I stood. "I'm done," I said. Daniel frowned. "You're being emotional." "No," I replied. "I'm being finished." I walked to the door. Margaret's voice followed me. "You should think carefully," she said. "Courts don't look kindly on instability." I turned back. "Neither do children," I said. "And he's already watching." Then I left. I drove straight to the police station. Detective Harris listened as I recounted every word. "They're escalating," he said. "And they're sloppy." "Sloppy?" I repeated. "They're involving the child," he said. "That works against them." "But only if I can prove it," I said. He nodded. "Which is why," he said slowly, "you're going to let them think Friday worked." My stomach dropped. "You want me to pretend I'm considering it?" "Yes," he said, "because if they're this confident, they'll move." "And when they do?" I asked. "Then we see what else they're hiding," he said. That night, Daniel texted, "I hope you'll think about what we said. This is about Noah's future." I stared at the screen. Then typed, "I need time. I'm overwhelmed. But I'll listen." The reply came almost instantly. "Thank you. That means a lot." I dropped the phone like it burned. At Rachel's house, Noah ran to me. "You're back," he said. I hugged him so tightly he laughed. "Always," I said into his hair. Later, after he fell asleep, Rachel sat beside me. "They really think they can do this," she said. "Yes," I replied. What are you going to do? She asked. I looked at my sleeping son. I'm going to let them show me everything, I said. And then I'm going to end it. My phone buzzed again. An email notification. From Daniel. Attachment included. Subject line. Care proposal. I opened it. And saw something that made my blood run cold. A draft guardianship document. With my name already typed at the bottom. Unsigned. Waiting. They weren't planning to ask. They were planning to take. The guardianship document wasn't finished. That was the most terrifying part. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't sloppy. It wasn't emotional. It was prepared. My name typed neatly at the bottom, waiting for a signature they assumed they could obtain through pressure, confusion, or force. Or worse. I stared at the screen until the words stopped looking like letters and started looking like intent. Then I closed the laptop and did the one thing people like Daniel and Margaret never expect. I got very, very quiet. The next morning, I met Detective Harris at a cafe 2 blocks from the station. He read the document carefully, his expression darkening with every paragraph. They're not aiming for temporary help, he said finally. They're aiming for authority. They think they can prove I'm unfit, I replied. They're trying to make you look unstable, he corrected. There's a difference, and they're using Noah to do it, I said. Harris nodded. Which is why this ends soon. I leaned forward. How? We let them escalate, he said, and we record everything. I hesitated. What if they try to take him before that? They won't, Harris said calmly. They think they're smarter than you. That makes them predictable. I hated that he was right. That afternoon, Daniel called. His tone was warm, cooperative. I've been thinking, he said. Maybe we should meet again. Just us. No pressure. I pictured Margaret standing just out of frame, nodding. I don't know, I said softly. I'm really shaken. I understand, he replied. We just want what's best for Noah. I took a breath. Okay, I said. But I need reassurance. Of course, he said quickly. Anything. I swallowed. I need to know you're not trying to take him away from me, I said. There was a fraction of a second of silence. Then, of course not. The lie slid out smoothly. Then let's talk, I said. We scheduled dinner for Sunday. At the apartment? Rachel watched me pack Noah's bag that evening. You're really going back there, she said. For a few hours, I replied. And only because I'm bringing protection. She raised an eyebrow. I held up my phone. Recording, I said. And back up. She nodded slowly. Call me the second you leave. I will, she hesitated. What if they push? I zipped the bag. Then they'll expose themselves, I said. Sunday came wrapped in artificial calm. I brought Noah home early so he could nap before dinner. Daniel greeted him with exaggerated cheer. There's my guy, he said, kneeling down. How's the brain today? Noah looked at me before answering. Okay, he said quietly. That look, checking my face before speaking, cut deep. Margaret hovered in the kitchen, stirring a pot that smelled too sweet. Dinner will be ready soon, she said brightly. I made Noah's favorite. I wondered how long she'd been practicing that line. We sat down at the table like a normal family. Too normal. Daniel talked about work. Margaret asked about my business. Noah poked at his food. I let them talk. I let them relax. And then Daniel leaned back and said casually, So we've been doing some research. Margaret nodded. A lot of families go through this. This? I asked. Managing complex children, she replied. I felt my jaw tighten. We spoke to a specialist, Daniel continued, about epilepsy and environmental stressors. Oh? I said. Which specialist? He hesitated. An advocate, Margaret interjected. Someone who helps families restructure. Restructure. I pressed record. And what did they suggest? I asked. Daniel glanced at Margaret, then back at me. That Noah might benefit from a quieter environment, he said. More consistency. I provide consistency, I replied. Yes, Margaret said. But you're intense. There it was. You're always on edge, Daniel added. Always waiting for the next seizure. I looked at him. Because there might be one, I said. That anxiety transfers to him, Margaret said. Children absorb fear. Noah's fork paused mid-air. I kept my voice steady. And your solution? I asked. Daniel took a breath. We want to formalize support, he said. Legally. The word landed heavy. I'm not signing anything, I said. Margaret smiled. Of course not. Not yet. Daniel leaned forward. We're just asking you to consider shared guardianship. My heart pounded. Temporary, Margaret added quickly. Just until things improve. Improve how? I asked. Daniel answered without thinking. Until his episodes are under control, he said. Or until you are. The room went silent. Even Margaret froze. I felt something inside me go crystal clear. You think I'm the problem, I said quietly. Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it. That was answer enough. I stood. Noah, I said gently. Go grab your backpack. He looked at Daniel. Then at Margaret. Then at me. Okay? He said. Margaret's voice sharpened. Sit down. I turned to her slowly. You do not speak to my child that way, I said. Daniel stood. You're overreacting. No, I replied. I'm documenting. Margaret laughed sharply. Do you think recording us will help you? Yes, I said. I do. Her smile vanished. You're unstable, she snapped. This paranoia. That's enough, Daniel said quickly, glancing at her. Too late. Noah returned, backpack on, eyes wide. Ready? I asked. He nodded. As we moved toward the door, Daniel reached out. Wait, he said. We're not done. I turned. Yes, I said. We are. We left. In the car, Noah was silent. When we reached Rachel's, he whispered, Are they mad? I parked and turned to him. They're losing control, I said gently. And that makes people say ugly things. Did I do something wrong? He asked. No, I said firmly. You did everything right. He nodded slowly. I don't want to live there, he said. You won't, I replied. That night, Detective Harris listened to the recording. He paused it twice. This is enough, he said. For what? I asked. To move, he replied. And to move fast. What about the guardianship document? I asked. He leaned forward. They already crossed the line by coercion, he said. And tomorrow, we push them into crossing it again. My stomach flipped. How? He smiled grimly. By letting them think you're cracking. The next morning, I sent Daniel a message. I'm scared. I don't want to lose Noah. Maybe we should talk about the paperwork. The reply came in under a minute. That's all we want. We can help you through this. I stared at the screen, then typed, Can we meet tomorrow? Just us. No lawyers. Another immediate response. Of course. I looked at Detective Harris. They took the bait, I said. He nodded. Tomorrow, he said. We end it. That night, Noah climbed into bed beside me. Mom, he whispered. Are we safe? I wrapped my arms around him. Yes, I said. I promise. Outside, my phone buzzed again. A new email. From Daniel. Attachment included. An updated guardianship form. This one filled in. Ready. They thought they'd won. They had no idea what was coming. The morning they thought I would sign my son away, I made pancakes. Not because I was calm. Not because I felt safe. But because fear feeds on chaos, and I wasn't going to give it anything to eat. Noah sat at the table in his pajamas, syrup on his fingers, humming to himself. The sound grounded me, reminded me why I was about to walk into a room full of people who believed they could outmaneuver a mother's instinct with paperwork. Mom, he said between bites, are you going to that meeting again? Yes, I said. But not for long. He looked up. You'll come back? I met his eyes. Always. Rachel stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching us. When Noah went to brush his teeth, she stepped closer. You ready? She asked. No, I said honestly. But I'm finished being afraid. She nodded. That's usually when things turn. The meeting was scheduled for noon at Daniel's office. Neutral territory, he'd said. Professional, predictable. Detective Harris met me in the parking lot. You don't go in alone, he said quietly. And you don't sign anything. I won't, I replied. He studied my face. You okay? I thought of Noah's question the night before. Are we safe? I will be, I said. Daniel's office smelled like coffee and manufactured confidence. Margaret was already there, seated upright, handbag on the table like a badge of authority. Daniel stood when I entered, relief flickering across his face when he saw me alone. Thank you for coming, he said. I smiled faintly. You said you wanted to help, I replied. I'm here to listen. Margaret slid a folder across the table. We made a few adjustments, she said smoothly, to better support everyone. I didn't touch it. Before we begin, I said, I need clarity. Daniel nodded. Of course, if I don't sign, I continued. What happens? There was a pause. Margaret answered. Then we escalate. The word hung in the air. Escalate how? I asked. Daniel cleared his throat. Through legal channels. You mean court? I said. Yes, Margaret replied. Where decisions are made rationally. I leaned back. And Noah? I asked. What happens to him during that time? Daniel hesitated. He'd stay with us, Margaret said. For stability. I nodded slowly. So, if I don't agree, I said, you'll take my child. Margaret's lips thinned. We'll protect him, Daniel added quickly. This doesn't have to be ugly. I reached into my bag, pulled out my phone, set it on the table. Recording. This is the part, I said calmly, where you explain why you forged my signature. Silence slammed into the room. Daniel's face drained of color. Margaret's eyes sharpened. That's a serious accusation, she said. It's a documented one, I replied. The door behind me opened. Detective Harris stepped in, badge visible. So is coercion, he said evenly. And intent. Margaret stood abruptly. This is outrageous. Harris didn't blink. Ma'am, you've already spoken to a minor about custodial changes without parental consent. Daniel's voice shook. We were just talking. You were preparing, Harris corrected. He turned to me. Did they ask you to sign? Yes, I said. Under pressure? He asked. Yes. And did they imply consequences if you refused? I met Daniel's eyes. Yes, Harris nodded. That's enough. The rest unfolded quickly. Too quickly. Uniformed officers appeared. Statements were taken. Documents were collected. Margaret argued until her voice cracked. Daniel sat down heavily, head in his hands, like the weight of the plan had finally landed. As they escorted Margaret out, she turned to me. You're ruining this family, she hissed. I met her gaze. No, I said. I'm ending the lie it was built on. Daniel didn't look at me when they led him away. I didn't need him to. That afternoon, I picked Noah up from Rachel's. He looked at my face, searching. Is it over? He asked quietly. It's done, I said, and it won't be your job to worry about it anymore. He stepped into my arms and held on. For a long time, the weeks that followed were quieter. Not easy, but quieter. There were court dates. Supervised visitation discussions. Words like injunction and restraining order and custody agreement entered my vocabulary. Margaret stopped calling. Daniel hired an attorney who spoke about reconciliation. I declined. Some bridges burn themselves. You just stop trying to put them out. Noah started sleeping through the night again. The seizures didn't disappear, but the fear around them softened. His neurologist adjusted his treatment plan. The school implemented new accommodations. The counselor helped him find language for things adults had forced him to carry too early. One evening, as I tucked him in, he asked softly, Mom? Yes, baby. Was I ever the problem? I sat beside him. No, I said firmly. You were never the problem. You were the reason I became brave. He considered that, then smiled. A month later, Noah and I sat on a bench outside an ice cream shop, the kind with sticky tables and too many flavors. What should I get? He asked. Whatever makes you happy, I said. He grinned. 2 scoops, as he ran inside. I watched him through the window laughing, pointing, alive in a way fear had muted before. And I understood something clearly. Children don't need perfect parents. They need parents who choose them, every time. Even when it costs comfort. even when it costs relationships, even when it costs the illusion of peace. I'm telling this story because somewhere out there is a mother who heard something behind a door and told herself it was probably nothing. And somewhere else is a child who heard something they'll never forget. If you're listening to this and you've ever stayed quiet to keep things calm, if you've ever minimized a threat because confronting it felt too hard, if you've ever wondered whether protecting yourself might hurt your child, let me say this clearly. Your child does not need you to be agreeable. Your child needs you to be brave. If you believe children should never feel like a burden, comment 0. If you believe silence protects no one, comment 1. I read every comment. And if you want more stories like this, real, uncomfortable, and honest, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you next time.